Well, good evening and welcome to the Lapidary channel. That's the saws that you hear running in the background, so excuse me for that. But today I want to talk to you guys about a simple and basic trick that anyone with a rock tumbler can use that will dramatically, and I mean dramatically, increase the quality of the slabs that you get out of a piece of rough, and of course how many slabs over time that you're going to get out without having to go back and do cuts and cutting chunks off that are unneeded. What I have here is I have two pieces of Pennsylvania Williamsite, and it's a serpentine mineral. It's found down in the Mason-Dixon line. It's actually material that we mine. On the right here is a piece that is, just been mined probably about a week ago by us. I wet them down so you can see them a little better in the video here. But as you can see, it's very hard to judge exactly, like, really what's inside that rock, what's the quality, of the rough, and how do the colors flow through it, how are the patterns at, where are the cracks at. So it's a lot harder to determine in this state where would be a good starting point. Should I start cutting from this side? Should I start cutting from this side, this side, this side, so on and so forth. So a simple trick that I developed over the years was, what I do is I actually take my rough, all different types of rough from all over the world, stuff I mine, stuff I buy, so on and so forth. And what I do is I simply put it in my rock tumbler. You only need to put it in for a short amount of time, generally, unless it's a very highly oxidized piece of material or it's extremely hard. You might put it in for a little longer, but on average, the Williamsite I actually only put in for about 24 hours. I put it in with I believe it's an 80 grit silicon carbide, and I just let it tumble. Now I have bigger tumblers and stuff, which I'll show you in a little bit, and I have smaller tumblers. Most people, may have, 4 to 6 pound or even 2 to 3 pound tumblers. So you might only be able to fit one piece of rough in here, but that's okay. Even if you have to take the rough and cut it in half, which would be unfortunate if it's too big to fit in your tumbler, it's still going to greatly increase the quality of the slabs that you get out of it. Now you can see the before of it, of course, as I showed you. And here's the after. Now this is only after 24 hours. Now when I put pieces in, generally I put, I would say on average, maybe 40 to 50 pounds I put in. Sometimes if it's only a single chunk of rough, I'll put it in one of the smaller barrels or whatever and just tumble it for 24 hours. You don't need as much grit as you normally would, when you're going to actually tumble your rough. You just need enough that'll knock off the dirt, the grime, the oxidization off it. As you can see, this one, I had probably a lot of grit in there. I probably actually recycled grit, which I do just for this purpose. From when I'm actually, doing tumbling, I'll save some of that grit just to clean my material. And I try to do this with almost all my roughs, and I'll tell you what, hands down, it really brings up your efficiency of your cuts and the quality of your slabs exponentially. Because now, if that was oxidized, I may not have seen this, it's not really a crack, it's more of a vug in there. I wouldn't have been able to see where the heavy layers of chromite are in it. I wouldn't have been able to see where the really good layers of gel are flowing through the stone. So now that I have this simple piece of rough tumbled after only 24 hours, now I can see into the stone. And just as if you were to take a slab, you'd want to be able to see exactly, of course, how the color's flowing before you're going to make a cabochon out of it, or you're going to do a carving. That's important. Another great thing that you're going to be able to do by simply just throwing this in a tumbler for about a day, sometimes even less than a day, is you're going to cut down on how much you dirty your oil. Now, if you remember in the past video on part 1 and part 2 how to use slab salt, you'll see the lower tone here. It desperately needs an oil change, which is something I have to do later this week. But with having the rough tumbled, like I keep saying, what it's also going to do is it's going to cut down the amount of grime that goes in your oil. So your oil life is going to, be extended exponentially. But in all, the reason I do this is more for, instead of just saving oil, I do it so I can see my rough, and I can see exactly the flow of the stone, the pattern of the stone, inclusions in it, and then I could better determine which way I want to, I want to slice it, whether I want to, try to just chuck it up and slice over here a couple slices, or, maybe cut it in half, or, come from another angle in it. So that way I can easily get the best quality slabs possible. This is a trick that I developed years ago, and I do with almost all my rough. Even, for instance, here's a piece of Williamsite. Now this piece isn't wet, but when I was mining this, it got cracked in half. Now, I mean, a piece like this, you generally don't have to tumble. I will anyways, for the simple fact that I want to see what's going on in the back of the stone, so to see if I really do want to come in from this area, even though this looks highly desirable. There's a lot of gel in the back, or in the inside of this piece of rough, and I mean, it's a world-class piece of Williamsite. But, generally, a lot of times when you get rough, it's really hard to determine. That's why people put water on them. Another trick that that I do with rough is, before I'll cut it, is a lot of times I'll just simply, now I'm not going to open up the saw, of course, because it's running, but I'll pull the carriage all the way back on my saw, and I'll just simply set, after I have it tumbled, or even before, if it's something that, that I'm in a rush to cut or whatever, and, I just don't have the time, which generally, like I said, I always tumble, but you just throw a little bit of oil on the stone. Just start up the blade for a few seconds, a little bit of mineral oil on it. The mineral oil does a fantastic job, and I mean a fantastic job, at allowing you to see in your stone before you're cutting it. So when you're cutting, the most efficient way to cut is to be able to really see what's going on inside that stone, and the better that you can see on inside it, the better quality of the slabs that you're going to get, of course, and the more use that you're going to get out of your material. So I'm going to actually show you here with some of the rock tumblers that I use to tumble my rough. You can do this in any, off-the-shelf type of rock tumbler, or something that you made yourself. But here we go. Now these are one of my sets of rock tumblers. Generally, in this barrel, and I have another PVC barrel down on the floor. So sometimes the old metal barrel there, I'll put rough in too, but this one's kind of my favorite. It's one I homemade, actually. I think it's out of, I believe it's either 10 or 12 inch PVC, or actually Schedule 40. And what the simple use for this tumbler is I put a batch of rough in. Sometimes, if they're similar hardness or whatever, I'll put, different types of stone in all at once. I'll tumble them for 24 hours. I take them out, clean them off, and then voila. You have, good rough that you can really see into, so you can really determine in which angle and what direction that you want to cut it on your slab saw. The other ones are just simply tumbled stones that are being tumbled, and there's another tumbler on the other side of the shop that has more drums on it. This one I had to leave off just due to the weight of it while this is in there, because there's probably about, I'm not sure, a lot. Let's put it that way. That's in here right now. And you can do this on a smaller scale. You don't need to do this, on a really big. This is actually an old I believe there are tumblers that you can use there, or just even simply there's a bigger Lorton barrel here. I think that's a 15 pound, and then there's a smaller, like such 6 pound in the back. And I mean, you can just, even if you just have a single piece of rough, take it in there, throw it on, even if it's only for a few hours, just to get that dirt and grime off so you can better see into your stone. It's going to really help you out. Well, I hope this tips help you, and please click subscribe in the bottom and like this video. And I thank you very much, and you guys have a wonderful night.